The single most important point of this entire section is practice is the key. Don't just listen, try stuff out. And the easiest way by far to practice is to do it interactively. Either install Firebug in Firefox or use the Google Chrome developer tools and try things out. I'll say this once, I'll say this twice, I'll say this a million times. Practice interactively even once you become intermediate and advanced JavaScript developer. I do this sort of interactive practice myself all the time. Probably you want a reference book. You want a book sitting on your shelf, perhaps, or at least after you get farther down the road, that defines the entire JavaScript language. I'm not going to cover the whole JavaScript language. I'm going to cover the most widely used and important pieces of the JavaScript language, but there are lots of little options and variations and extra functions and objects along the way that I'm not going to cover. The book covers all of them. This is not a book for learning JavaScript. It's a reference if you know the basic way JavaScript works, but you want to say, what are all the functions in the string class? This will tell you. The online references kind of are halfway in between. They're not necessarily completely definitive and exhaustive, but they often give tutorial sorts of introductions to many of the main concepts. And so if you want a little bit more detail than what I give in some of these sections, go and look at those online references. Eventually, you'll want to load JavaScript from a web page, and you use the script tag to do that. And then we looked at variables, operators, and functions. Practice those. All right, so practice is the key. So the first thing you probably want to do is make a simple HTML page, bring it up in Google Chrome or Firefox with Firebug installed, bring up the JavaScript console, and try several of the constructs out that are in this lecture. The next thing you might want to do is take my examples and run them, modify them a little bit, tweak them, and see what happens. So in this section and every other section, if you go to courseserverless.com and you click on the JavaScript tutorial link, you can download all the examples, all the JavaScript, all the HTML, all the CSS, if CSS is used, in that section. And then you can do anything you want with it. You can use it in your real applications. You can practice. You can play with it. You can do whatever you want with it. But in this case, you probably want to run it and modify it a little and see what happens. Once you've done that, popped up Firebug and tried things on your own interactively, experimented with my examples from this lecture you just looked at, you probably want to do something more. Try some exercises. And so the website also has some exercises for you to try once you've gotten your feet wet. And I want to say as strongly as I can, nobody, I don't care if you're Larry Page or you're Bill Gates, nobody learns programming by listening. You learn programming by doing. So if you really want to become a serious programmer, you have to practice. You can practice on your own. You can invent your own exercises. Fine. But if you can't think of exercises to try my exercises. Partly because I've already thought of them, and partly because I have the answers. And so you can kind of compare your answers to my answers and see if they're the same, see if they're different. Maybe your exercises solutions are better than my exercise solutions, or perhaps mine are better than yours. But either way, you can compare your solutions to my solutions to see how things work. So practice is the key.